Hello there guys, it's me, Unstable Voltage. Welcome to episode 3 of Europa Universalis IV as England. We're currently dealing with the War of the Roses, which is quite an annoying event that you do get as England. What we're trying to do here basically is just get our armies to stomp all of the rebels that are popping up. It won't be long before we can actually finish this. We're going to go ahead and boost our stability now while we've got the admin points to do it. We're never going to unsiege that province before this one gets sieged, unfortunately, because all we need to do now in order to end the War of the Roses is make sure that there are no rebel-occupied provinces. It's a little bit of a pain. So we're going to march up there and kill those guys, and we'll unsiege while we are there. Hopefully we should be in a relatively decent position to get this done now. Now, again, we have a better leader, and we do have a bigger army, but that doesn't seem to help because they have a massive amount of morale more than we have, and they always seem to get much better rolls. I'm still convinced this game cheats by just giving better rolls to the AI when it knows it's outnumbered. But we did win that battle, so we'll sit there and unsiege. That won't take long to unsiege, of course, because it doesn't have a fort guarding it or next to it. This one will take a little bit longer. But once it's done, that'll be the end of the War of the Roses. We're actually making money now, which is nice. I'm going to go and... right, we've now reoccupied Cumbria. Fantastic. Let's get those ships down there so that we can pick those guys up and bring them back when we need to. You guys can just sit up here and recover. We've got no manpower now, which is absolutely terrible. But at least we do have an heir, so the succession is safe. It was looking for a little bit of a while, like we may end up having some issues with the Castilians. So we've still got the Lollard Heretics, potential rebel uprising. We'll deal with that if and when it comes. Who else are we going to suck up with now? We can improve relations a little bit more with Castile. Let's work on Brittany a little bit more, and then we'll go over and do Austria, and obviously we need to do Portugal as well. Just try and keep all of our friends capped, and then at some point we might have to go and see if we can take some of Ireland. So France has declared war on Provence, which isn't going to be good for Provence. And Provence do also have a couple of provinces down here at the bottom now. It's actually two, because this main province has been divided into two. Also, it's confusing when you've got Provence and province. But yeah, that's actually been divided into two there. So we're doing quite well. We are protecting trade. We're getting some money. We're just trying to unsiege this now. We still haven't breached the walls, so we can't attack. Noble's disgruntled. Wow, this again. So we can lose some money, or we can get some more local unrest. Let's go ahead and lose the money this time. The reason I'm going to do that, we've already got a lot of potential chances for rebels to pop, which is going to be a pain enough considering we don't have any manpower to reinforce. And we are making money. We're not making a lot, but we are making money. Mostly because we don't actually have any manpower, so we can't reinforce, so we're not paying reinforcement costs. There we go, we've actually won the Siege of Labor, so order has been restored. The end of the War of the Roses. The armed conflict over the succession to the English throne is finally over as the ruling dynasty defeats the rebels. So we gain another stability and we gain 50 prestige. Brilliant, we're at +2 now. Let's bring these guys down to London. And we still might get these Lollard Heretics pop up, so let's move these guys. We can go ahead now and untick that fort. I don't think we need to have it running. You guys are going to get on the boat. We'll drop the boat in London and we'll mothball them again and make a little bit more money. So, the rise of a dynasty. With the final battle now won, the War of the Roses, as it will come to be known, is at an end. We must now decide how to proceed, to strengthen our position at home and abroad. Even now there are whispers of potential usurpers, including the return from exile of the ambitious Henry Tudor. It might be prudent, therefore, to reconcile our two houses in matrimony. And this is the thing that I don't understand, because I'm sure in history, Henry Tudor, who was Henry VII, was actually the opposite side, because War of the Roses was Richard Plantagenet and Henry Tudor, and Richard Plantagenet died in the Battle of Bosworth Field. I think Richard was king for about, I don't know, he was king for a few years, not long, but he was king for a few years, and then Henry Tudor rose up, and then they had Richard III died in the Battle of Bosworth Field, and Henry became king, Henry VII, and then he married Edward the sixth daughter or something like that to basically marry the two houses together, which is essentially what this event is. So we can either never reconcile, when we will get another 5 local unrest in pretty much every province for the next 5 years, or we can gain a free stability and get a 3-4-2 heir. Well, what do we have at the moment for an heir? We have a 4-6-1. So we've got 11 versus 9. So our current heir is better, but what you've got to remember here is Henry Tudor is probably older than our current king, which means there's every chance the heir might die first. We're going to take that option anyway. So that will actually replace our heir. Now, as you can see, he's actually 28. So if he dies, he might die before our king. That'll be a little bit of a pain, of course, because it might mean we go into a regency council, because we might not have an heir in time. But it's, we could just do without having all of the unrest. And look, would you look at that, we've got a call to arms. So Austria has declared war on Switzerland, and they're requesting that we come to their aid. I'm going to say yes, because our man... Yeah, we've now failed that mission, which is weird, because even though, yes, I know I've just gone to war, but my manpower was still doing exactly the same thing it was doing before. Not a lot. I'm going to remothball the transports there. I'm going to find my trade fleet, and I'm just going to tell them not to go home right now. Oh, that's the wrong button. I am going to tell them not to go home. Mainly because I don't... Obviously, Switzerland don't have any... yeah, we've got Hungary, Genoa, and Austria on our side. Switzerland are landlocked. They've got no navy and no allies. So there's no threat to my trade fleet. So let's just keep our trade fleet out there. Let's recall our diplomat. Let's go and... well, let's not suck up with Austria, actually. Let's go and suck up to Portugal. No diplomats to send. Oh, we're just waiting for him to come back. Okay. The reason I'm not sucking up to Austria is that we're currently in a war with them. So we're actually... Well, not against them, but we're on their side in a war. So that's actually going to give us some positive reputation with them anyway. Looks like France is busy down here doing some warfare on Aragon. Obviously going to have to go to war with France at some point, but it's not worth doing it early on. Let's wait for them to have a little bit of a distraction, shall we? Got some new missions. We can reclaim Picardy or conquer Artois. Very nice missions to take, but we do have very little manpower. And Burgundy aren't currently in any wars. I'm not going to pick a mission right now, because I'd much rather actually getting to a point where we can recover a little bit. We are still recovering manpower, so let's allow that to go up. Austria should win this war without much of a problem. I mean, Switzerland don't have any allies at all. And you basically, I mean, we're not getting involved, but Austria, Genoa, and Hungary, their only war goal is to take Bern. So they'll grab everything quite quickly. Not worried about that too much. So yeah, France are in this war against Aragon, I think. Oh, it's actually no, it's actually the war with Provence, and it just seems like Aragon are actually on their side. Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. Does of course mean that France are actually quite busy there. So what have we got here? Support the Florentine school. Because of our relative nobility, we are in a position to support the Italian artists in the Florentine school. Being perceived as patrons of international art will definitely help our propaganda efforts. So we can either... 89, so 40 years. So for 40 years, we can gain +1 yearly prestige. We'd lose 30 admin, we'd lose 10 diplo, and we'd lose quite a bit of money. Or we can just say no and lose 5 prestige. It is very, very hard to get prestige in this game now. And 40 years of +1 prestige. The admin and the diplo power isn't that terrible. The money is, but considering we can't actually reinforce right now, it's not all that bad. And we are actually making money. So I think it's okay to allow that to tick on. I'm just going to check missions periodically, just in case a new one pops up. There might be something interesting that we can take. We've still got every chance, of course, that these rebels are going to pop up, these Lollard heretics. Currently, there's a 70% chance of them popping in 1 year. They could pop up pretty much anywhere, to be honest, but we might just have to wait for them to pop and then just go and try and crush them. And they are going to be religious heretics. They're not going to be nearly as tough, hopefully, fingers crossed, as the pretender rebels that we were fighting in the War of the Roses. So, to fully reinforce our armies, we still need 1,410 men, because we've just got a tick there. I could go ahead and consolidate the regiments, just to try and let it recover, but I think it's fine. I think we'll just let it tick over. And we just need to try and avoid any wars. It's very, very tempting to just go, oh, quick, France is busy, let's go and ruffle stomp them. But I've had too many times where I've gone up against France thinking that I've got an advantage against them, and then all of a sudden they just roll at you with a 30 stack out of nowhere. As you see, he just actually lost his occupation of Maine. This is the new mechanic with the forts. So Anjou there probably has a fort. Yes, it does. So Anjou's actually putting zone of control on Maine. So he sieged out Maine, which only took him 1 tick because Maine doesn't actually have a fort. But as soon as he moved out of Anjou, because its zone of control was on Maine, it instantly flipped it back. So the AI does seem a little bit dumb to the new fort mechanic and doesn't seem to fully understand how it works. So National Epic, our subjects have taken to telling tales and the legends about Henry VI of Lancaster. The legend says that in England's darkest hour, he will return to our nation and deliver it from evil. Regardless of the truth in that statement, we could use this to our propaganda. So we could gain another +1 yearly prestige for 28 ducats and -10 admin power, or we can lose 5 prestige. And this again will be for 20 years. Let's go ahead and grab that. Yes, we are losing some money, but now our prestige is going to go up quite quickly because we've got the National Epic and we're supporting the Florentine School. So that is actually going to help the prestige. Well, it's not going to help the prestige. The prestige is still going down, but it's not going to go down quite as much. Where's most of that coming from? Just a base value of 5% decay. That's pretty bad. But it does give us global trade power and reduced mercenary cost. It gives us legitimacy and better improved relations. It's certainly worth having as high prestige as possible. And even though it decays quite quickly, we are just still trying to slow it down. We're still making money, so things aren't too bad. What have we got here? So, new trade research is heretical. We've had complaints from several dignitaries in our country that the new practices of our merchants are clearly heretical and that we should put a stop to them. So we can either lose 50 Diplo power or we can lose 10 prestige. Well, we've got quite a bit of Diplo power in the bank. It's very, very annoying. You know, you play someone like France who's quite overpowered, who, from what I remember, mostly seems to get positive events, and then you get loads of events as England that seem to constantly give you rebels, or constantly give you national unrest, or constantly cost you all of your money, or all of your monarch points. And then you basically play as someone like Castile, who constantly seem to get events that reduce the stability. And it's a real pain sometimes. So we're just letting things tick on. I know this is not too exciting. We could always try and fabricate some claims over here and just go and vassalize one of these guys. Do any of these guys actually particularly like us? Munster do like us. Connaught like us. Ulster like. Everyone likes us here. Tyrone actually the least of all. We could go ahead and potentially take Tyrone over. We'll wait till we've got a free diplomat. We'll see if we can go and fabricate any claims over there. And we might be able to grab something. And there we go. We have the revolt. We were waiting for that. There's actually 2 groups of them, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and deal with these ones here first. Hopefully we should do it without taking too many casualties. We do have slightly higher base morale. So we did win that one. Oh, there we go. Austria has now peaced out with Switzerland. So Switzerland is going to cede Bern to Austria. Switzerland will be forced to pay war reparations for 10 years. Switzerland's also going to pay 108 ducats. So, fair enough. Not too much of note there. It's very, very odd that Austria... I was going to say it's odd that Austria decided to take Bern because it's on the wrong side of Switzerland. But I suppose it is next to Sundgau, which Austria do own from the start of the game. So that makes sense. So we've lost a little bit of morale here. We're going to just march straight up to Yorkshire. We will get a morale tick before we get there. We'll get at least 1 morale tick. So they have taken control, which is a little bit of a pain. It's one of those things because we don't have a neighbouring fort. I mean, even if I had a fort I could turn on, we don't have a neighbouring fort to Yorkshire anyway. On the plus side, it means we can unsiege it just as quickly. So there we go. We've taken some more losses, which wasn't brilliant. We do have a loan coming due. We must remember that one. So that should reduce a lot of the unrest, mainly because we'll have the recent revolt. So we just need to wait for this siege tick. There we go, that's done. Let's get you back down to London, where you've got a higher supply limit. So how has that affected the old rebellions? Yep, seems to have completely disappeared now. National unrest is down to nothing. So good. We shouldn't have any more rebellion problems for a little while. Although we still have this manpower issue. I really should consolidate, but I just want to build up to my full force limit, so we'll allow that to continue to happen. So here we go again. Let's see if France actually move their troops out of Anjou and lose the siege of Maine. They do seem good at doing stuff like that. It's a little bit silly. Let's just check the missions again. Protect against France. Have an army equal or larger than France, 33. And what would we get for that? Recruitment time and regiment costs. Well, what is our force limit? Our force limit is 34, and we're actually currently only running at 32. The problem we've got right now is we don't actually have the manpower. Although we could do it, I think, with mercenaries. It's a little bit silly, really, because we've basically got a mission that means once we're at our force limit, we get reduced recruitment costs. Well, it's regiment costs, so is that maintenance costs as well? But what's the point in giving me reduced recruitment time when I will already be at my force limit? That seems really silly. But there again, we're not really in a position to do either of those. So let's go ahead and grab that. And let's go ahead and... They are expensive, but we'll see how it works. We'll just grab 2 units of mercenaries. And that will actually put us up to our force limit of 34. So let's see if that's actually enough to trigger that mission. Apparently it is. Okay. So what we could do now, we could go ahead and get rid of those mercenaries now. And I actually think I will. It is a bit of a waste of money, but I just wanted to actually find out whether or not that would work. Apparently it does. No mission selected. Reclaim Picardy. Our manpower reserves need to recover. Yes, I completely agree. And if we can actually avoid rebellions, pretenders, heretics, people declaring war on us, getting dragged into other wars, and all kinds of stuff like that, we might actually have a chance to let the manpower recover. Although I doubt it. It is going to take a long time. France still busy taking out bits of Aragon. Looks like they're actually going to stick around and siege Anjou this time. It still might be a good time to go to war with France, but I still think going to war with them now would be really, really silly, simply for the fact that we don't actually have the manpower to do anything against them. Calais is now the seat of a new cardinal. We actually have 2 active cardinals, which is nice. We've actually got some decent papal influence. I think we should invest a little bit and increase our chance of becoming the papal controller. What are we up to now? We have a 28.5% chance of becoming the papal controller. Like I said, I don't really intend to play the Catholic game, but it, you know, we're not going to switch over straight away, so it might be worth it. See what happens. So we can go ahead and grab a new Diplotech. We might want to do that because it'll give us better trade efficiency, because we'll be ahead of time. Because currently we are making 10 ducats a month, and from our trade we're making 7.52. So let's go ahead and grab that. It will take until the end of the month probably. So 10.36 now is 11.58, and that 7.52 is now 8.8. So we're actually making a fair bit more money there, and we are only a little bit ahead of time. We're actually making nearly enough money to consider getting some advisors. I mean, we might want to get an admin-focused advisor. We are still Diplo-focused. We might actually want to remove that focus now, given that we are a little bit ahead of time. So let's go and spread our points out a little bit more evenly there. So, MP in scandal. A minor scandal has occurred in the capital during the current debate. It seems rather than attend the sessions himself, one of the MPs was out disturbing the public peace and harassing his landlady. The outrage is great both among his peers and in the streets, and likely to haunt future parliaments for years. So we can either let it slide and we'll lose some prestige and gain some local unrest, or we can arrest the MP, but Wessex will now oppose the debate. Let's arrest him. Let us go ahead and grab a... We don't really need any of these. We don't need less national unrest now. We don't need missionary strength. Do we want to take any of these? Morale of navies? No, none of those are really needed. What about military? Morale of armies? Extra discipline's rank 2. We could grab one of these guys and just try and get some better military tech. It'll be nice to try and get ahead of the curve. And I think we will also go ahead and grab one of those guys. Of course, what we could have done as well is if you do get one that is, you know, if you look at the list and the 3 here are no good to you, you can always spend some money to fire them and hopefully get somebody better, which we didn't take up. We've got a national decision available now, because we've got a theologian, which is the Advancement of Religion Act. It would give us some national unrest, but we'd also gain some missionary strength. As we're not really doing any conversions, I'm not too worried about that right now, so I'm not going to bother with that. We could go ahead and build some marketplaces. So buildings now only cost money. They don't cost any power points, but they are quite expensive to build. There's also a limit to the number of buildings you can build in a province. So if we go onto this buildings tab now, you'll now see all of the provinces with a little number up in the upper left-hand corner. This is the number of building slots that these provinces have remaining. You can also see that if you actually click on a province and press this little button here on the right-hand side of the province tab, and that will actually show you how many open building slots there are. And the number of open building slots is based on the development score of the province. So if I want to, so you start with 1 building slot. Every province has a building slot to start with. You get a base of 1, and then for every 10 development, you get another building slot. So if we want to open a 3rd building slot here, we need 20 development, and then another building slot would be at 30 development. Now, as a result, the actual buildings have changed because some of these buildings now upgrade from one another. So, for example, if we were to build a marketplace, then when we get the technology to build a trade depot, the trade depot would actually replace the marketplace. And then if we actually get up to a stock exchange, the stock exchange would replace the trade depot. So you're never going to be able to have a marketplace, a trade depot, and a stock exchange. Same with the temple. The temple upgrades into a cathedral. And normally you can only have 1 manufactory. So if you actually count the total number of buildings there are that you could have in any one province, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So theoretically 11 is the most buildings you could ever have in a single province. Do we want to go ahead and actually build a marketplace anywhere and increase our local trade power? I mean, London is an important centre of trade. We'd get an extra 19.4 trade power if we actually built this building in London. I'm going to go and build that. It's nice and early on in the game. And I personally think that that is going to pay for itself. Just before we end the video, one quick look and just see how our relationships are going. We've still got a fair bit of a way to improve, so we'll keep that on. Here we go. Now look at this. The Parliament have passed the appropriate land for the state. We now gain 1 base tax in Labour and 1 base tax in Derby. They weren't the places that it actually suggested. Before, it was Gloucester and Northumberland, which are both on a +5. So, as I don't know what the base tax was in Derby, and as I don't know what the base tax was in Labour, without going back and looking at a previous video and finding out, I don't know whether or not those numbers have actually gone up. The reason I call it into question is because when I've done this bit before, and I have played like the first few years as England just to test things out, one thing that I noticed would happen is normally that that parliamentary thing is Northumberland and Gloucester. And what I've noticed happens is it normally comes up in the pop-up and it'll say Northumberland has gained 1 base tax. Northumberland has gained 1 base tax. It'll say that, or Gloucester or whatever. It says the same province name twice. And it always confused me because I thought, well, is it just reporting it wrong and it's actually given me 1 base tax in each province? Or has it given me 2 base tax in 1 province? Or has it only given me 1 base tax in 1 province and the other one's bugging out or something? So that was why I actually looked what the base tax was in those 2 provinces, which was completely pointless because it decided to do it in 2 separate provinces. As for Parliament, we now cannot actually start another debate because we have to wait 10 years. So as you can see, it takes quite a while for a debate to go through because you need 10 years to wait for a debate, and then once you do that, it's going to be at least 5 years before the debate even has a chance of going through. So you'll technically only pass something through Parliament once every 15 to 20 years. So as interesting a little minigame as it is, it's not really a fast-paced little minigame. But that's enough waffle from me. I think that's a good point to end the video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you are still enjoying EU4 is England, and I'll see you next time. So until then, goodbye for now.